Up. All right, welcome. Today we're trying something new called Where the Water Tastes Like Wine. The game sort of taking place around in a sort of Depressions era America. Let's might be air conditioner in the background, but let's get started. Anyway, it's one of those games that just sort of starts immediately when you open it. That's a feather.
Night has fallen and you're weary from travel. Stars fill the sky above, and in front of you is a brightly lit wooden house, the only building you've seen for days. You walk toward the house, hearing the sounds of laughter and talk as you reach the door and push it open. You sit down and join the game. It's a cheap buy-in, and not many of the other players are very good. The lady fiddling with dice gets good cards, but has no real strategy. The man to your right seems to just hold on to the highest cards he has, regardless of suit or any consideration of matches. The man in gray across from you, though, he's good. He already had the largest pile of coins when you bought in, and while your winnings grow quickly, you can't quite catch him. One by one, the other players leave the table, sometimes with pique or with wry humor, leaving their winnings with you or the man in gray.
Okay.
Finally, it's just you and the man in gray. He looks at you, full of humor, and winks. Last hand? He deals, you draw, and look at your hand. It's good. It's great. The best hand, in fact. A royal straight flush. Spades. Aces high. But the man in gray pushes forward his whole pile. You're not sure exactly how much it is, but it's more than you've got. You can't match that.
Aww.
The man in gray stops you. Now, if you like, I'll let you wager your word. I know you'll be good for it. Just promise you'll pay the debt, however I ask.
Oh, okay.
The man in gray smiles. All right, then. I'll call.
What? Wait, what? That's a wolf.
Well, your luck wasn't so good, was it? That's quite the hand, but not for the game we're playing. I'm afraid you owe me. Your life, sure, but more than that, your labor. You see, this land is built on stories. It's one big story, this country, woven of many small ones. Few of the small ones are strictly true, and the big story is mostly a lie. All the stories and songs and myths and legends start somewhere, with a seed. As they're told and retold and passed around, they grow and change to become the stories we know. To pay your debt to me, you'll be carrying stories, finding the seeds first and then spreading them, telling them onwards so they can begin gaining strength. This is no light task. Stories are heavy. Most of the stories you'll find will be small seeds. They might be true, but they'll grow wild and unbelievable with the telling. The more important stories are the true ones, the ones people will tell you about their own lives. Those often get lost in the weaves of the big story. The more true stories you can find and tell, the more you can weave that truth into the big story. Tarnish it a bit perhaps, but isn't a dingy and battered truth better than a shining lie? Now, go ahead. You tell me a story. I'll trade you some information about your task. Travel? That's your job. Wander from place to place, gather those stories and spread them. People get bored hearing the same stories over and over, but an old cliché in one state might be a rip-roaring new yarn in another. You'll sometimes have to make choices about what kind of story you're finding. Is it a love story or a tragedy? Don't gather too many of one kind, though. This grand story needs variety. Your deepest desires? Your greatest wish? Heaven? Big Rock Candy Mountain? El Dorado, the Promised Land, that place just over the ridge where they all say that the water tastes just like the sweetest wine. Well, I don't know where that is. It's supposed to be somewhere in this country. Ask the people you meet. They're all searching for the same thing. It's just luck. Funny how bad luck seems to follow the folks who already have problems aplenty. Well, try your luck out there in this country. See how the dice treat you. It's not all bad. You'll have to work hard, but I'll give you the gift for seeing the true shapes of people. Not many who can do that. I'll strip away your flesh to make the journey easier, but still you'll feel pain. Hunger, weariness, thirst, and despair. They're all part of stories, the part not often told. And death, yes, but don't worry. As long as your task remains, you come back. Go on your way, Seeker. Maybe we'll meet again. Either way, It'll be an experience. I'm jealous in some ways. I hope you find what you're looking for.
This bungalow is being ransacked. There's furniture piled in the front yard, ammunition heaped under the mailbox, and a crowd of clean-cut men ripping apart a car in the driveway. The two heavily armed, mud-caked women leaning over the porch railing share the same bored grin. One shouts at you. Lend a couple innocent gals a cigarette?
Sure if I have any.
You are about to hand her a smoke when those men draw pistols and shove you hard into the dirt. You know these girls? Once they've dumped your bag out into the road, they decide you're harmless. If you were selling booze too, you'd have a lot more cash, sneers one. On the porch behind him, the two bootleggers are fingering their empty rifles, grinning in disappointment.
My vagrant song.
Probably look up what all these cards are supposed to mean. How do I... Okay. Oh, a manual. Your goal is to fulfill your obligation to the wolf by finding all 16 characters scattered over the U.S. and trade stories with them until you earn their trust and finish their story. By having adventures, you begin to collect stories. When you meet characters, they'll ask you for different types of stories: tragic, hopeful, scary, thrilling, or funny. Remember what sort of adventure you had, and you'll know what type of story you got. Stories will grow and change as you tell them. Once you tell a story to a character, it will be out in the world, and you may encounter someone who will tell a better version of it. This better version will be more entertaining when you tell them the characters, but you'll be sure to tell different stories so that you have a chance to grow them all. The stories you get from characters are wild cards. They'll fit in any of the 5 categories. However, telling them will not cause them to grow, so use them sparingly as you're giving up a chance to spread other stories. If you want to swap around the stories you tell, you can do that in the inventory. There are several ways to travel across the U.S. The easiest is walking, but it's slow. You can speed up your walking pace by whistling. Hold down the button and match the notes to keep your spirits and speed up. See controls for more details. You can also hop right on a boxcar. This will get you exactly where you need to go, but runs the risk of getting injured by the railroad cops. To hop a ride, find a train yard. A safer way to travel is hitchhiking. To hitchhike, hold the hitchhike button while standing next to a road with cars on it. Not every car will stop, but they won't always carry you the full distance. You will be safe. Finally, if you got some cash, you can go to the city and ride the fast, safe passenger trains from place to place. It costs money, but it's the best way to travel. Each time you meet a character, you'll have a night to talk with them and exchange stories. If you tell them the kind of stories they want, you'll gain their trust and move forward through their tale. However, there are no penalties for telling them a different story. You will still earn whatever they have to tell you. You'll still learn whatever they have to Characters in multiple chapters, and when you only open the eye in the interface, the next time you meet them, you will move on to their next chapter. When you finished all the chapters, you won't see them again. Each time you finish a night with a character, they'll move somewhere else. You can always check the map to see where they are, but they will always show you that they moved. The inventory holds mementos you collected from the characters you've met. Once a character trusts you fully, they'll give you everything. They'll give you something to remember them by, which could be used to travel to where you first met. The inventory screen also has tabs so you can keep your stories, the timeline of your adventures, the map, the US, and your progress with you and each character. Okay. Wonder if I can. So, does it show me the characters before I meet them? No. I guess my first stop is Massachusetts. No, that's the. Here's the story.
Off the road and into the woods, you can't help but come across this package by the old tree tied to a sturdy stick. The cloth wrapping conceals, though not particularly well, something large and softly unsettled. Little eyes blink back at you from inside the bundle.
Hey.
The shape gives a start. Please don't tell my pa that I'm in here, it says in a small voice.
Why not?
Pa doesn't want to live with us anymore, but I want to go with him. Don't tell him, please. I'm hiding.
I won't tell.
You tell the boy you'll keep his secret. You don't see his father anywhere. You don't see another soul for miles.
No, I'm not. Huh. Hey, Portland.
They don't come every year, you know. The old man is sitting at the edge of a rotting old pier, crooked legs dangling over the water. He watches a pair of seagulls preen and groom each other on a rock just off the shore.
Why?
Just when the fishing is going to be good. He taps great, black, thick globs of spent tobacco out of a huge ceramic pipe. I got another year, I guess. Another year of this town being here, he replies, letting a grin spread across his face. If the seagulls came, that means enough fish to keep it in place. A woman walks the small town square with the poise of Betty Davis. a confident stride, and inimitable mannerisms elevating the sidewalk into a plush Hollywood carpet. And wrapped around her neck, a yellow velvet ribbon, bright as an ocean sunrise. You question a well-dressed man parked outside an oyster house. Prudish woman. I took her on a fine date and she didn't remove so much as a ribbon. Excuse me, can you step back from the coupe? That's the spirit. You decide to seek a second opinion. You talk with a waitress smoking outside a diner. Something funny about her. Just showed up one day. Doesn't work, doesn't live anywhere as far as I know. Just around. Myself, I'd love to know who made all her beautiful clothes. You ask the woman if you may join her at a public bench. You may. Lovely outside, isn't it? Her eyes are a beautiful shade of brown. Beneath the yellow ribbon, a thick, fibrous scar wraps around her throat. Weather like this, it reminds me of Paris. You can see storm clouds on the horizon, and you don't relish the thought of being caught wandering this rocky seaside road in the rain. Fortunately, you find the lighthouse door open, with a daunting staircase before you. At the top of an ornate wrought iron spiral, you're breathless and feeling the strain on your knees. Rain already batters the walls outside. You can only knock on a heavy wooden door leading into the upper level. Muffled voices and light seep in beneath the door. Looks like we got a visitor. Sounds like a man's voice, deep and rough. Well, behave yourself. I'll open the door. Another man, this one with a higher, more sonorous voice. I always behave myself. He feigns indignation, but his tone betrays affection instead. After a moment, the door unlatches from the inside and opens. The man before you is tall and muscular, with a hint of a paunch beneath his wide chest. The heavy iron knob on the door looks nearly dainty in his huge hand. Didn't want to be out in this rain, did you? Come in. Despite the rough exterior, this room looks like a well-appointed parlor. There's a rug on the well-trod wooden floor and an enormously plush couch. And sat upon it is a stocky fellow grinning through a great hazel-colored beard. Tea? He offers, hoisting a teapot.
I like to look at his heart.
Oh, we manage. The tall one sits on the sofa, casually wrapping an arm around the other lighthouse keeper. The quiet suits us just fine. He needs his quiet time. He's a writer. The tall one grunts. I dabble, but you must have some good stories from the road. You wake up the next morning on their old sofa, still warm from an excess of tea. And cakes? There might have been little cakes. Prodigious snoring rumbles in from the floor above you, and you quietly take your leave. A dusty truck and a man on horseback pull up next to one another in front of the grocer. Suddenly, the driver and the rider, two wiry old men with identical haircuts, start shrieking at one another. The man with the truck leaps into the street. "Brother!" he shouts. The one on the horse tumbles out of his saddle. "Brother!" he screams. They embrace in the road. 30 years, hollers the driver. The rider, tears streaming down over his face, corrects him. "No, 32!
Nice.
Everyone here is watching these two older men cry and hug one another in the middle of Main Street. Cars and wagons are backing up. People are yelling.
"Take a photo of us!"
The driver begs you. Starts hauling a tripod out of the bed of his truck.
Let's get out of the road first.
As you usher them onto the sidewalk, the driver says,
"Joe, I thought you were dead."
The rider freezes.
"Joe?"
He blurts.
"I'm not Joe."
Oh.
The two men stare at one another, each slowly recognizing something alien in their mistaken brother's face.
Well, I'm gonna scroll my name on the bones of the earth. I'm gonna dig my heels into the ground. 'Cause when that fame may come for to tally up my worth, I won't leave much behind to drag me
We'll explore. Red brick, green trees, blue sky, and weather.
This city is like no other you've been to. Crooked streets splay out in a maze of narrow passages, no two alike. Soon, you find yourself in twilight, utterly lost. Bright light crests around one corner, a car approaching.
I hailed a taxi cab.
Compelled by the cold and foreboding night, you don't question it as you drag your bones into the cab. But you realize immediately how strange the vehicle is. It's a sleek thing, like a shallow parabola gliding over the street. "Where to?" he asks. You have to stop and think. Eventually, you name Boston Common, the only landmark you know in this town. He peels off silently. You feel the car move before you hear the engine. He takes you through ever odder streets, flanked by painfully clean, gleaming buildings and signage for businesses you don't recognize. Even the air seems different. It doesn't smell so sharply of gasoline and coal. Eventually, you come to a stop. The fare's in glowing numbers above his dashboard. It's much too high. Surely a mistake. "No charge," he insists. "You look like you need a break." And then you find yourself on the curb at Boston Common, under thick moonlight, in a city much as you'd left it before.
Fish earned some money. This is Panhandle. Ah. Oh.
Well,
moonless night. This beach is long, stretching toward a receding sea. In the darkness, the sand seems coarse and gray, alien. The stars are dim and distant. It outshines the stars with its presence, a streak of sickly colored light, leaving a trail of distorted fire. It slowly creeps along the sky like a vast worm. Now you know that, given the distance, it must be moving at great speed. Its parabola heads south to north. In the far distance, just for a second, a boardwalk town is engulfed in light. With a rumble, its street lamps and windows dim, then go dark. All that you can see emanating from there is an otherworldly color that you can't quite name.
And when I'm gone empty, they're the ones who'll bury me. Well, I'm gonna cast my stones o'er the waters of this land, and
tell me
by
about it.
and by I'll see them far and long. 'Cause when the night come down for to take me hand in hand, this will be my tale, my vagrant song.
Let's go make the
This
camp.
will be my tale, my vagrant song.
Hey there, stranger. You're welcome to enjoy this fire with me, if you're respectful, that is. This here is my spot, and I ain't inclined to share it with any bad characters. You can call me Quinn. These here are my venturing companions. Cass is the big un, and the one with the spots is Flip. I usually beat my way on the rails, but the road news said this town was fat, and the weather was fine. So I'm taking in the sights and seeing what I can drum up. You got any happy stories?
Check. And this is let's try this one.
I usually like the scary stuff, but your story needed more punch, I think. Wishes come true, huh? If I had to say, it'd be great to have red beans and rice cooked with some fatty bacon. Supposed to be a Mississippi River specialty, but I ain't never had it. Hey, tell me one of those exciting stories.
Exciting. I think I got one about yeah, the woman who were bootlegging in Maine.
Well, that was something. You spin a good yarn.
Yeah,
Authority, bosses and such.
yeah.
I ain't nobody's little Angelina, if that's what you're asking. I take care of myself and my dogs. I don't need no jocker looking out for me, so if you're offering, don't. Shoot, I thought I told you to be respectful.
Sorry.
You want to keep enjoying my spot or not? Think about that. Hey, do you got any really thrilling stories to tell? I'm hankering for one of those.
Let me check.
Well, that was a lively tale. What's my future look like?
Oh,
I ain't looking for a traveling companion, if that's what you mean. I do fine by myself, so just stick to minding your own. You got any happy stories?
yeah, so, nice one about the lighthouse keepers and their important matches.
Now that's a happy story. Love stories. Huh. Folks sure seem to be eat up with the notions of love, singing and talking about it all the damn time. I'm not sure I see the appeal myself.
Really?
I want to hear a story about ghosts or murderers or something. Scary stuff.
Oh, scare story. That was kind of spooky. Couldn't find his father for miles.
Well, that sure was a downer. Give me a good venture tale instead any day.
Wow, that sounds fun.
My family. There ain't no way I'm gonna start jaw flapping about those bastards. Judases, the lot of them. Enough said. Oh, heck, the night's over already. I sure enjoyed talking to you, but I gotta get on. I think I'll see what's happening up the road this way. The tramping life suits me just fine. Every day is a venture. With things being so depressed, folks walk around like it's the end of everything good. But it ain't. Plenty nice things to see if you know where to look.
Muddling through the dark, you stumble into the path of the white deer. Its beauty strikes you at once. It is something otherworldly, beyond borders, a moon swimming in the void. Human shouts not far away break the spell. The deer's ears prick up. This thing is being hunted.
What's up with
You know a way out of here. As the hunter's cries get louder, you approach the deer carefully, palms outstretched. As you grow close, your features become clearer in the light of the deer's aura. It bolts into the path of an oncoming train.
Listen to this one. He works his way through a long and true story about a taxi which shows its riders the future. It's the story of the oddly silent taxi cab in Boston. It's a great story.
The engines belch black smoke as the ferry churns gray water into froth. A broad-shouldered figure leans out over the rail, eyeing the skyscrapers on the horizon. Nearby, a man and a woman speak in low, urgent voices. He takes her wrist gently. She is weeping softly.
I wish you didn't have to go.
She says.
There's got to be work on some of those buildings going up.
His thumb skates over her pulse point.
I checked every day for a week. There ain't. I'll be back, though. Got your picture in my wallet, don't I? It's not forever.
Her words are split by a sob.
Might as well be. My parents didn't come to New York for this.
She leans against him, the wind tousling her hair. He pulls her to his chest.
I'm leaving because I gotta go. If there was another way...
They stand together, close, quiet, in the stiff breeze.
Actually, to look for work. What are these holes about? Dear Lobby, Dave Hobby, Dean Bobber? Dear Lobby, Hobby, Dave, Grave, Grave Robin? What? No, that can't be right. Okay. Don't know how I feel about that. Tricks. Somewhere. Ah, there's Georgia. Oh, yeah. So where am I? Down there. God, there Where's Quinn? Oh, I'm going the wrong way. Yep, I should. I think that this is right.
The stream is a clear, reflective shade of blue, unusual in this region where bog iron colors the river's brown. Across the way, a goat with great leather wings laps up the water, its sunken red eyes fixed on your every movement. You now notice the unnatural absence of wildlife. No fish swim in the stream. No birds sing in the trees. The winged goat drinks with a forked tongue, only abstractly concerned with your presence.
Should drink the water.
You cup the water in your hands, ice cold somehow, and take a swallow, soothing the coarseness in your parched throat. Clear as the water is, the stream bed isn't visible, even looking straight down. Your feet don't reach the bottom, so you float in the cool water, feeling washed clean. The ripples flow as far as you can see, never fading. The winged goat snorts and heads in the other direction.
But I already... It's an interesting tale.
The hotel is an old manor house that's seen better days. A grand structure surmounted by a gambrel roof that dwarfs the house itself. It's eerily still, but for two boys at play. Each one so small and light, they barely leave tracks in the deep snow. The clerk behind the counter is old, and your room key is worn. But night approaches, and the price is low. Just before you shut the room door, there they are, the twins, staring at you from the corridor. In the morning, as you leave the clerk asks, "Did you sleep well?" Too tired to lie, you tell him about the noise outside your door, the trampling of small feet on the corridor outside, the dreams disturbed with violent and hideous images. "That's odd," he says, weak-eyed. "There are no children staying with us."
Stranger, it's good to see you again. You know, I'm gonna see this whole world one day, but for now, I just got my sights set on seeing all 48 of the great U.S. I already seen 10 whole states. That's better than my folks ever done, that's for sure. Plenty of townies and even some tramps treat me like I'm kid simple, but I ain't helpless, and I only act it when I ain't got no better choice, like if I get pinched. I do right fine on my own. Don't need nobody but Cass and Flip. Hey, do you got any really thrilling stories to tell? I'm hang- Were you trying to scare me? Well, you didn't go far enough. In this country, I don't rightly know what this thing called America is. I know what I done been told in school, but the words don't fit the picture. What with tramping across the whole thing, figure I'll find out for myself soon enough. I want to hear a story about ghosts or murderers or something. Scary stuff.
Actually, I came across Silent Twin.
You spin a good yarn. I was shivering there for a little bit. Being trapped, caged. You think beggardom is a prison? No, stranger. Beggardom is freedom. Responsibility is the real trap, wound tight like an old spring. Pride and pretending'll bleed folk dry, and then when there ain't nothing left to be proud of, when they can't pretend no more, they'll unwind. I want a story that scares me. Now I'm older, almost nobody can do. Ain't life got enough tearjerkers in it without telling stories like that? Jeez. Freedom? Well, that's what them trains have come to mean to me. Freedom. Crossing a country wider than imagination. Hey, tell me a funny story. You seem like you still got a sense of humor. That was a chuckle to be sure. And the past is just that, past. The whole world is at my feet, so why bother talking about the one place I can't go to no more? I'm in the mood for something real funny like.
Okay, let's see what I Story of
I don't get too much out of tales that are so cheerful. Not enough excitement for me. Huh, the future. I suppose I'll just keep heading west. California sounds mighty fine, and most everyone is heading that way anyhow. Well, sun's coming up, so I've got to get ready to go. Thanks for the tales, friend. Where you heading next? Decided yet? Maybe our paths will cross. I'm going up the road this way myself. Hope I'll see something fun. I generally do, you know. There's interesting things to see everywhere if you keep your eyes open.
My twin brother Paul and I always got into trouble, but we were good. We didn't do nothing to anybody till we left. Then we hurt a lot of people. Me, more so than Paul, because he didn't make it through. The march I was on, the bonus army, it's less a bonus and more an acknowledgement of what I've had to suffer. Civilians will never understand. You know any good jokes? I'm not so good at telling them anymore.
Funny.
Wish I could tell that one to my sister. The past doesn't even feel like it happened. It feels like it's happening in every moment, in every slumber. When your memories come back to you, do they clutch at you, at your heart? So anyway, tell me a funny story? You seem like you know a few good ones. Life ain't like that, in my experience. But I guess my experience ain't none. The future's the issue, ain't it? Great War leaves us nothing to go back to, plucking up the hope and leaving us only with the vile and the unforgiven. You know any good jokes? I'm not so good at telling them anymore. Yeah, Paul would have liked that one. Travel. Well, this this walk feels like a little bit of freedom now and again. The flowers along the road make for fine company. So anyway, tell me a funny story? You seem like you know a few good ones. You know, the government told us to keep our chins up too, but I didn't believe them either. Love? It was a real long time ago. Pulled a ribbon on her hair, her pigtails came undone, and she tattletaled on me. Never really tried after that. Do you know any happy stories? Hopeful ones? Oh, come on. That doesn't sound real. Authority? The law? Well, I had a thought once, in the trenches. You and I, all of us, have the right to the pursuit of happiness. Can't say I've held the Declaration myself, but does it say anything about having a right to achieve happiness? Here's the sun. I've got to go. I'm headed up the road this way. Will our paths cross? Days come and go and terrors return. What about you? Is there something somebody owes you?
The mailman's uniform is dated and worn. He sits on the edge of the road, head in hands. He looks up as you approach. Can you help? Car clipped me. I think my legs... Well, I'd appreciate it if you could deliver this for me. He holds out a brown envelope. The letter's addressed to a James Gibson Sr., 120 J Street. But the city stymies you. The blocks run straight from I to K. You stop a man for directions, but he shakes his head and laughs. Someone's playing a joke on you. There's no J Street. Over here. A woman in a brown coat overheard your question. She steers you down an alley. Someone's chalked a big orange J on one wall. I thought Clovis was late. Go left up ahead. Old Man Gibson's the third on the right. As you round the corner, the world changes. J Street is a place out of time. Like the city forgot an entire street a century ago and carried on around it, oblivious. Even the noise and bustle of D.C. can't penetrate this little pocket. The man who answers is ancient and stooped. He peers at the letter.
I think it's from my son. I don't see so well anymore. Will you read it to me?
You tear the letter open. It isn't good news.
My vagrant song.
You read the letter, omitting a few key details, but his face still falls.
I don't think he's coming home,
He says,
it's been so long. I don't think he's ever coming back.
he takes the letter.
Thank you for bringing word at least.
Well, I'm gonna scrawl my name on the bare bones of the earth. I'm gonna dig my heels into the ground. 'Cause when that ferryman come for to tally up my worth, I won't leave much behind.
Yep, that's sweet. Grave dropped, alright. Yep. Oh, now I can. Stop there.
Well, I'm gonna
Before we talk to anyone
have
else, we're
my
gonna collect some
spade
stories.
upon
And,
my weary back. I'm gonna keep that stripe stuck
It's a
in
nice
my
game.
soul. 'Cause when my
I'd have to tell you though that, you know, if you like the way this game looks, you should probably go get it for yourself, actually. Plenty of more stories told. Feels like it's a game better experience than watch. Again.
Well, I got no companion except the wind and the sea. And when I'm cold and empty,
Anyway, yeah.
they're the
Join us next time.
ones who'll bury me.
But that'll be it for right now. Later.
Well, I'm gonna cast my stones o'er the waters of this land, and by and by I'll see them far and long. 'Cause when the night come down for to take me hand in
Yeah,
hand,
but join us next time.
be my
We'll
tale,
continue
my
to go
vagrant
across
song.
America, sharing stories and whatnot.
This will be my tale.